I'm standing here in Mexico on the edge of the Caribbean. And just a few miles across this water is the island of Cuba. In many ways, it's a world away from most of us. And our Seventh-day Adventist family on this island has been isolated for many years. But later we will be visiting this community, this country, and we will be seeing the dynamic Seventh-day Adventist church that is operating in Cuba. Cuba is the largest of the many islands that make up the Caribbean. Discovered by Columbus in 1492, the island is rich in history and culture. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has a long and rich history in this country as well. Work here began in the early 1900s, and now, more than 100 years later, the church is still growing in spite of some difficult circumstances. Today, more than 25,000 church members live in this country with more than 11 million people. First-time visitors to the capital city of Havana are often surprised to see all the old cars driving around, many in immaculate condition. You get the sense that you're walking back into the 1950s. The buildings are old, they need repair, but they still bring a sense of beauty and nostalgia to Havana. People here are quick to smile despite the difficult conditions they live in. It's so refreshing to experience the energy and emotion of Cuban Adventists. Their churches are packed for Sabbath school and church as they praise God, study the Bible, and grow spiritually. And church members are eager to get out into the communities and share their faith. I met Benicio, a new church member who works as a taxi driver. After spending long days driving his taxi around Havana, Benicio gathers his friends and neighbors to come to his house for a small group Bible study. Even before he was baptized, Benicio started to meet with his friends to share the excitement of his newfound faith. He even took time of his long days to drive people to evangelistic meetings. He prays that soon the people attending his small group will join him as members of the Adventist Church. Sabbaths in Havana are a joyous occasion, and one of the major challenges is to find a seat in church. But even despite the cramped conditions, the members are happy just to worship and fellowship together. On the Sabbath I was there, members of the Vibora Church happily welcomed Seventh-day Adventist World Church President, Pastor Jan Paulson. His message of hope encouraged church members. Pastor Paulson challenged them to be a presence in their community, to show the love of Jesus to their friends and neighbors, to be beacons of light.
You were once walking in darkness, but now, he says, you are walking in the wonderful light.
It's Sunday morning here in downtown Havana, and as I've walked the streets and taken a few photos and talked with some of the people through the limitations of language, it's like a different world to me. But I see these buildings and they're decaying, they haven't had the economic resources to keep them maintained. You know, you tend to get a little philosophical and you think about the goal of the restoration of God's image in humanity, and that's a goal that we are part of as we seek to fulfill the mission Jesus has given us to tell people about his love. And just further up this street, as we're just walking along, we came across this door and it had the Adventist Church logo on it. And I spoke to our translator, and he explained that this was a house church. They call them houses of light here. So right here in the center of Havana, we have a group of Seventh-day Adventist believers who are sharing God's love. On the eastern side of Cuba, near Guantanamo Bay, is the small town of Boyariba. A crowd of more than 500 people has gathered for the dedication of a new house of light. A steady rain falls on the crowd as they wait for the service to begin. The people try to stay dry as the ribbon is cut and the doors to the new building are pushed open. The pews fill up quickly as people rush to find seats before the building overflows. The Adventist Church in Cuba isn't allowed to build new church buildings, but they are allowed to renovate old ones. It just so happens that this pastor's house has a living room that will hold more than 250 people each Sabbath. The church members sing songs of praise and gratitude as they show their thanks for their new house of worship. At the service are representatives from Maranatha Volunteers International, a lay member organization that's been responsible for rebuilding this house of light. Maranatha's worked in Cuba for more than 15 years, and they've worked on virtually every building that the Adventist Church in Cuba has built. Maranatha has truly caught the global mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and has helped lead the growth in this country. The evening ends with a short devotional, and then the new baptismal tank is put into service as 15 people are baptized. The rain that soaked the members as they waited for their house of light to open couldn't put out the flames of faith that burn in each of their hearts. With the prohibition of new church buildings, house churches have sprung up all over Cuba as the church has grown. Local leaders estimate that the church has more than doubled and almost tripled since restrictions were loosened close to 15 years ago. These house churches also serve as a witnessing tool to the community. Lay members get to know those people living near the house of worship, inviting them to come and learn about a loving God who wants to fill the void that they have in their lives. The house churches are lay-led, and the members that share their faith do so with a passion that's contagious to those who listen. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Cuba is growing. It's alive. It's making a difference in its community. It's reaching out. The church in Cuba has only one wish, only one goal.
Que Cristo venga pronto,
That
ya,
Jesus will come soon, now.
y que estemos listos para recibir a Cristo.
May we be ready to receive Jesus Christ.
Claro, para eso la iglesia tiene una misión que cumplir.
For that to happen, we have a mission to fulfill.
Y estamos haciendo todo lo posible para cumplir la misión de la iglesia.
We are doing everything possible to
Que la
fulfill the
iglesia pueda
mission of the
cumplir
church.
su misión
So the church can fulfill the mission,
y que pronto podamos encontrarnos con Cristo.
and then soon we can be with Jesus
Esa es la
Christ.
esperanza de todos los adventistas en Cuba,
That's the hope of every Seventh-day Adventist in Cuba,
el encuentro con Jesús.
to have an encounter with Jesus Christ.
As Seventh-day Adventists, we're all called to fulfill the Gospel Commission, and Jesus is asking each one of us to play a role in telling the whole world of the new life that comes through His love and forgiveness. The church members in Cuba are doing everything they can on limited resources to meet this call. What can you and I do to follow their example? How can we share our faith with those we come in contact with every day? Thank you so much for your prayerful support of the mission of this church. Thanks for doing your part in helping tell the world about Jesus. For more information about the mission work of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit us online at adventistmission.org.